Hey, it's Andy and John here with Car Repairs Made Easy. So we're working on a 99 Ford F-250 with a 7.3 liter diesel or Powerstroke engine. We're going to replace the alternator. It's not charging properly. So to do this job the safe way is you need to disconnect both batteries. We're going to do that. And as you can see, these cables are corroded. We're going to recommend to the customer that they replace them. But you want to disconnect those. You just need a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter socket, and then just start taking them loose. Make sure you disconnect them and move the cables away from the battery so it doesn't touch, because you don't want to get sparks. Okay, now we got the batteries disconnected. We covered up the batteries so that we don't bump anything on the battery and maybe cause any problems. We need to take the belt off. Right here's your belt tensioner. There's a 1/2 inch square hole there for your 1/2 inch driver ratchet or breaker bar. Just put this in here and give it a pull to loosen the tension off the belt, and then we'll take it off. Now we don't need to take this belt all the way off. We just need it off the couple pulleys so we can get the alternator off. We mentioned this before in other jobs. Make sure you know the belt routing. This one happens to have a sticker here that shows the belt routing. Pretty much every vehicle will have it. If it doesn't, just take a picture of it with your phone or camera. Okay, now that we got the belt loose, we're over here. We'll just take it off the alternator. We'll try to leave it on as many pulleys as we can so it's easier to do. Now what you need to do is you have an electrical connector here and this cable, which is what charges the battery. Just if you squeeze this, it should pull off. Push it down, and that's not working, so you just gotta mess with it. Some of them are really tough. There's a tab holding it on. There we go. Pull that off. You can see here you push. This lever pushes in, releases it. Now to get to we disconnect this cable off the back. Just use a 10 millimeter wrench and just loosen the nut. Turn it a couple times, it'll come off really easy by hand. Now what we like to do, just to be safe, when we take this off, we'll wrap it with a rag, because some of the modules may have, even though the battery's disconnected, some of the modules may have power still in them, in the capacitors. So just for safety, we're just going to wrap this up with a rag so it doesn't touch anything. You don't necessarily have to do this since you have the batteries disconnected, but it's just something we like to do as extra precaution. We can move that out of the way, even though that fell off. Let's cover it up. Get in there. Just tuck that right there for now. Now once you've got that off, this is the easy part. It's just 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 13 millimeters. Just grab a socket and a ratchet. That was already loose. Just break them loose here. And this should it'll lift straight up. This is one of your easier jobs to do as long as you know it's already done. A lot of places like local auto parts stores can actually pretty much diagnose that you have a bad alternator. They could test them. So if you don't know how to test it, which we try not to get into diagnosis because that's actually the difficult part. Depending on what your problem is, a lot of times it is worth it to spend the money to have a shop diagnose it. And then if it's something you think you could do, or if you know you've seen some of our videos and you know that you can do it yourself, then that's what you want to do. Don't pay them to do it if you don't have to. So here's our old alternator. You can get a shot of that. We'll find the new one.
This one, when we diagnosed it, we put out, the battery light came on, and the voltage output was a right around 12 volts, which told us it was running off the batteries, even though the gauge showed normal. And then it would jump up to 14.5, and then actually the customer, the day we diagnosed it, decided not to put the alternator in, and it left him stranded. And at that point, it was only putting out 8 volts. So now he's ready to put one in.
All right, so here's our new one. See, nice and shiny and clean. Always look to make sure it physically is the same. We've already verified that, but you can see they look the same. This just sets right back on there, and you just put your 3 bolts back in. And of course, while we're trying to film something, my phone goes off, but we're not worried about that right now.
It's typical.
So what we're going to do is just to speed things up here. And we know you probably won't, chances are you don't have power tools, but I'm going to use one just to speed this up. Tighten those down, and then I'll just check them by hand and make sure they're tight. Those are nice and tight. So what we're going to do is now we have our charging cable here. Put that back on. It should come with a new nut. Use the new one because the threads might be different or a different size than the one you took off. So we're going to get that on as tight as we can with my fingers. Now when you tighten these down, don't over tighten it. You just want it snug so nothing moves, because this is easy to break, and if you do that, then you're buying another alternator because they won't warranty it. That's why you see I'm only using one finger. Nice and tight. Cover it back up with the little boot that's usually on the cable. That keeps any metal parts from contacting it. Plug it back in. Now we're going to switch sides. So we can put this belt on. And since we didn't take the belt all the way off, this should be easy. If you can see down in there, we didn't lose it off any pulleys. Set that there. We're using a ratchet, but you could use a breaker bar. We like to use a long ratchet, that way we can adjust the angle of it. So now I can get it there. Pull your tensioner, the belt underneath. Once you put the belt on, or you think you have it on, always take a look and make sure it's on and centered on all your pulleys, because the groove portions will destroy the belt or it could come off. That looks pretty good. Now we're just going to hook the battery cables back up, start it up, make sure your gauge reads that it's charging, and that's it. That's how you replace an alternator on a 99 Ford F-250 with a 7.3 liter Powerstroke engine. Again, it's John and Andy from Car Repairs Made Easy. Thanks for watching.